do a quick prayer of invocation, gratitude. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. If we can get the screen to get the verse that we'll be discussing from today.
You have permission. Well, I just gave you access, Chaitanya Shravan Prabhu.
Yes, Veda Pro, please go ahead.
Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktyupahretam asnami prayatatmanaha. Translation.
If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it.
Thank you everyone for joining today. And today we are moving to the heart of the Bhagavad Gita. And the heart of the Bhagavad Gita is in some ways the revelation of the heart of the divine. So here, this particular verse is saying that we discussed how we are all, are spiritual beings. We have, as spiritual beings, we have body, mind, and these are a part of who we are. And above us is the all-pervading, omnipotent, all-loving divinity. And generally, whenever we want to approach somebody who is very big, very powerful, the question comes, what are your credentials? Suppose, say, I come to America and I say I want to meet the President of America. The question is, who are you? What credentials do you have to meet such a person, to have any kind of contact or relationship with such a person? So this particular verse describes that for developing a relationship with the divine, there is something very different from the world. In one sense, you can say if this is the self, the core self, you could say there is the character of the person. And then there is the appearance of the person. Now, the appearance could be just the physical appearance. It could be the way they dress, the car they drive, the home they live in. And in one sense, the world looks outside in. That is the world's vision. So if somebody is very attractive, everybody pays attention. Somebody is wearing very expensive clothes, people pay attention. If somebody drives in a relatively luxury kind of car, oh, who's this person? The world gauges people outside in. But the vision of the Lord is that he sees inside out. If he is here, if the divinity is here, the divinity, that vision is inside out. And inside out means that what is being described here, if we want to connect with the divine, here what is required in the material world, if you want to meet somebody very important, if you want to go and meet the CEO of a company, okay, what are your credentials? And the credentials that are looked for are the credentials of material possessions or positions. So, but while the possessions could be somebody has big wealth, positions could be, I have this degree, I am in this company. But the divine vision looks only at the heart's disposition. This is what is primary. And so this is we could say, this is the human focus, whereas this is the divine focus. And that is indicated in this verse by saying that if we want to approach the divine, we can approach with something very simple. 4 items are mentioned, and those are representative of simplicity, all of them. That patram is leaf, patram phalam, fruit, pushpam is flower, and then water. Now all of these are very easily available, and the key element is that the heart's devotion. That means this is actually the path of pure love. Generally, whenever we want to form a relationship, we worry, does the person, do they care for me or care for what I have? If somebody is very wealthy, somebody is very famous, somebody is very attractive, well, those things, they are not going to last for very long. They will come and they will go. So whenever we form a relationship, we have this fear. Tomorrow, if I don't have the things that make me attractive in the world's eyes, will somebody care for me or not? So here what is being said is that the divine, the care is not for what we have and what we offer. It is care for who we are. That the heart is there. The Veda likes to talk about heart space. So if the heart space is filled with devotion, with love, then even the simplest of externals are enough, more than enough. So this is actually, we could say, pure love. And it's an expression of pure love from the divine towards us. Yes. Any comments, reflections?
Yeah, I thought, whenever I read this verse, I look at bhakti as being such a simple, yet so profound and so deep, that bhakti does not require anything. It's really, really a space that is so deep within our heart that there's nothing outside, nothing visible to the eyes, nothing material comes anywhere in comparison to what truly comes from the heart. So in this verse, when I talk about patram, pushpam, phalam, toyam, these 4 items, leaf, flower, water, and a fruit, I mean, these are things that is available everywhere, in every country, in every continent. It's as simple as like oxygen available in the world. The simplicity of it, how easy it is to practice bhakti. Because there is there's nothing that you have to do to get them. It's effortless, is the word I was trying to think of. It's effortless to practice bhakti.
Yeah, true. The idea is that in general, just continuing this theme of effortless, there are things in our control and there are things beyond our control. Now, if we are judged and rejected or condemned based on things beyond our control, then that is the essence of unfairness. So for example, if somebody is judged based on the color of their skin, or if somebody has some some physical or behavioral issue which is just not in control. Some people say stammer while speaking. Now that's not in their control. But if we are judged, or rejected based on things that are not in our control, then that is considered unfair. So now we cannot, in one sense, when we are forming relationships, we're going to judge, that, okay, I want to spend time with this person, I don't want to spend time with this person. That's fair enough. But if it's based on things beyond our control, this is unfair. If it's based on things in our control, that's fair, but it's also reciprocal. So here the Gita is saying that the divine reciprocates with us based on things that are in our control. Now, wealth, power, fabulous ability, all these may not be in our control. But these things to offer, they are very much in our control. And thus, Bhakti is universally accessible. Yes. Radhadev, you want to say something?
Yeah, this is actually this conversation, like I can feel myself like breathe easier and become more relaxed. Because this concept that have you guys ever heard the saying, what other people think of me is none of my business?
Yes.
It's like it's so true, because we could spend so much time in a certain relationship or with a certain person, like trying to get them to love us, right? Like trying to do what they desire or make them happy, and we can come up against a dead wall over and over and over again. It's like hitting our head against a wall. But in the relationship with the divine, it's like all that matters is our heart. Like you can fail over and over again. But I love too, like there's no failure in devotional service, right? Because if you're serving God and you have a pure heart, that's your service, and the result is the result. So this, and he accepts it, whatever it is. So it's like, it's such a relief that in this relationship, you have total control over how it's received, because it's received based on the purity of your heart and intention. So then our work is just purifying that heart and intention, and we don't have to be constantly trying and worried so much about a result or how a person's going to interpret our actions. So it's really it's like I can feel my nervous system calm. I'm a little bit of a control freak, so I really appreciate this, because I'm like, I got this. I got total control over this. I can do this.
One of the things I was thinking as you were speaking, Priti, is that, when I go to a place in India called Vrindavan, some of you may know, this is a city of 5,000 temples. Everyone in this town are so joyful, and everyone is singing, chanting, dancing, and they're all doing this joyfully. And as we go on these pilgrimages, and as you walk around, and you'll find people, the practitioners, they're just living under a tree on the side of the street, in very, very humble little spaces. And you look at their face and you see the joy in their face. I'm like, what is it that these people have that makes them so happy? And, I live in America where, everything is so extravagant. And we're still like not able to come up with that smile. What is it that these people have? I don't know if you remember, when I went on this trip to Vrindavan, we found these groups of people. They're living in a little shelter with families, and they have a camel that they use to carry things from one place to another. They have nothing. A little tarp over their, just to cover them, protect them from the rain. But the joy that they have, and they were just playing with little sticks as their toys that they found. And I was just so absorbed in observing their joy in the streets of Vrindavan, I was completely blown away that they have nothing, yet they're so happy. And this is what I always remember as practitioners of Bhakti, that you don't need anything to be happy. Actually, the less you have, the more happier you are. That's something I've personally observed with hundreds and hundreds of residents of Vrindavan. When you go and you get to observe this, and it completely transforms your perspective on the world. So I just thought how sweet it is to observe this.
Yeah.
Oh, Radha, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's funny. We can experience that same thing like in our own lives, right? Like we'll make this elaborate plan for some kind of a date night like I did last week. And then everything kind of falls apart. But what's left is like beautiful. Or you have more fun when you don't make a plan and it's just like a rainy day and you're like, oh, we'll just see what happens. And then it becomes like the most memorable time. And I feel like the common denominator is just that like heart-to-heart connection. So if whatever you're doing, if that's there, the rest, it's like just icing, right?
Mm-hmm. Chaitanya Prabhu.
Beautiful.
Bhakti.
Yeah. So, Veda, I was thinking maybe we could, there is the three things here now in Bhakti. If you could say that here we are there, then there is the process, or rather, let's put it this way: there is the process of Bhakti, and that connects us with the divine. So now I'm not good enough artist to depict the divine here, but so we talked about Bhakti as pure love. We talked about how we can progress in this relationship based on what is in our control. Maybe we can talk something about the divine now.
Yes.
So the Bhagavad Gita, as many of you know, is a dialogue. It's a discussion where it is spoken to Arjuna and it is spoken by Krishna. So now Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is Arjuna's friend. He also becomes Arjuna's teacher. However, the Gita also reveals that Krishna himself is the divine. And now the word Krishna, it in Sanskrit means Krish means attraction. So it literally means the all attractive one, the one who attracts our heart. So this vision of the divine, Krishna is revealed as Krishna. That is actually the understanding that the divine is the embodiment of, it is embodiment of love. We could say this is the yogic vision, the yogi's vision, you could say. The yogi's vision of the divine as an embodiment of love. And so this is the conception of the divine, and we'll see all of us probably grew up with certain conceptions of the divine. And this conception that the divine is overflowing with love, and that can be very rather they mentioned reassuring to the heart, but also reassuring and enriching. It can be very endearing to the heart. So what is the ultimate reality? What is the nature of that divine being, divine existence? So we all can discuss, we all can speculate. The Vedic texts say that ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. There is one truth, but many names for that truth. So in the different theistic traditions of the world, That one truth may be known by many different names. Its names are different, but the truth is one. At the same time, the revelation of the truth, the aspect of the truth, the personal and personable nature of the truth that is revealed in the Bhagavad Gita and in the Bhakti tradition is a very endearing and enriching vision of the divine. Yes, you want to add something?
Yeah. I often, when I am thought of what does Krishna mean to me, and many times people have this idea that Krishna is just this statue and he lives only in these temples and he only eats this. So there's a lot of rules and regulations around it. But to me, I've noticed that Krishna is this embodiment of transcendental, pure, eternal, unconditional spiritual love. And anytime I'm meeting with people of other faiths, they describe their God to be the same. They may have a different name, but they believe that God is just love. And this bhakti is simply a process of expressing that beautiful transcendental love. So for me, I like to keep it personal, because whatever that spiritual divine being is for each and every one, they could have their own practices, and that's sure, because it definitely works for them. But for me, I found it is very, very personal. This divine relationship, this divine connection is very individual and very personal. I know that I remember reading somewhere in this wisdom texts that the divine is so personal, it's filled with unlimited qualities, that it has a unique quality to attract each and every living entity on the planet. And that makes me even love divine even more, that it's infinite qualities to attract infinite souls in their loving relationship with the divine. So this is my meditation whenever I think, and what is not attractive about that? So how can you not love Krishna? It's something that I question myself.
Beautiful.
That is what is all attractive in the world.
Yeah. So that's such a, I grew up with the conception of divinity also as Krishna, but Krishna was more like a historical character, or not necessarily mythological character, but it is one thing to, we can all say we know Krishna, but the knowledge of Krishna as a person, as a loving and lovable person, that is something which we get only through the Bhakti tradition. There is knowing about the divine, and since you mentioned the personal relationship with that, and there is knowing the divine, and the two are not at all the same things. It is knowing about the divine, it is more like abstract theoretical knowledge. It could be theoretical, it could be also factual. I'll explain the difference, but this is more personal knowledge. So the difference could be, say, the way a physician knows a child and the way a mother knows the child. Now, if the child is sick, then the mother may not know the WBC count, the platelets count, and this and that. The physician may know that. But who actually knows the child? Knows the child not just as a biological machine to be tinkered with, but as a living, loving person. That is the mother. So Now, outside the Bhakti tradition, what I found is that there is some knowledge about the divine, and depending on what kind of tradition we are exposed to, there are different degrees of that understanding. But that personal relationship, it's like a game changer. We start perceiving the attractiveness, the lovability of the divine therein. So any comments, reflections? Radha Devi, I want to ask you, for both Veda and me, we grew up knowing about Krishna from our childhood. But for you, was it a journey to understand or accept Krishna?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because it was kind of weird even. Like I wasn't really into Krishna book when I came into this. I thought it was like kind of silly, honestly. Like, okay, this is a blue cowherd boy who plays games, and it was like that's kind of a waste of my time to read, honestly, is how I felt. Just to be completely honest. But then what happens is like I think I'm kind of skeptical by nature. I grew up more in Christian background, and I always want to. I'm skeptical by nature, and I'm pretty scientifically minded. So I'm very much so like, okay, prove that to me. I need to feel that to believe that. I need to see that to believe that. I don't just like accept because it sounds pretty and cute. So Christianity was wonderful and beautiful. But when I came into this path and I walked into the experiment with a relatively open mind, I started to feel the reciprocation of the divine so strongly, more strongly than I really ever had in my life. And not in the sense that like I'd pray for material things and get them, but in the sense that I could feel this shelter and this love and connection and what happened when I started experiencing that within myself is I started getting more and more interested. Like, okay, I tried a couple of these practices and I'm experiencing a huge change. Maybe I should try some more of these practices. Maybe it's worth trying some more. And so I kept trying that. And I remember having a conversation with a senior Vaishnav and asking him, like, you know, I can't, I want to feel like Krishna's my friend, but I just don't. I can't like get past this block. And he's like, you should study more. And I'm like, Krishna book, like read a bunch of tales of like wonderful. Like that's not super interesting to me. And he's like, you should read it not just for what's happening in the story, but the essence of the story. And when I started reading it through that lens and really seeing these examples of this just like pure unconditional love, unlike anything that we really experience here in the material world, that's what made it fantastical. Like that's what made it, and that's when I started developing more of a relationship and when it became more and more real to me. And I'm still not where I'd like to be. I'm actually realizing more and more like I need more of an attraction, because the more of an attraction that you have, the more that you can be surrendered to it, the more that you feel the reciprocation, and then the cycle just like continues. So I'm in this phase right now where I'm like feeling like I'm getting into that spiritual hamster wheel, which I want to stay on for lifetimes. So that's my experience.
You know,
Thank you, sir.
Chaitanya Charampur, I was just thinking when she was sharing, and when I was a little kid, we used to read these comics books in India called Amar Chitra Katha.
Yes.
So they have these little comic books in India for little kids. They write stories of, from the ancient wisdom texts. And some of them had the stories of little Krishna and all kinds of stories. And I remember a thing that really struck me was how Krishna was the ultimate animal rights. He really loved animals. And he literally talked with them, he played with them, he hung out with them, he fed them, he cared for them. And I thought, how sweet is this? And so I always liked the soft nature of humanity where there's so much care for all beings. So I, as a kid, was so attracted that I even had little pets, you know. We were not allowed to have pets, so I secretly had a mongoose.
Mongoose, okay.
Yeah, I had a mongoose because in the monastery there was a lot of cobras around. So the mongoose, they like to feast on cobras and vipers. So this mongoose, little baby orphaned mongoose, became my companion, and I would secretly hide him and play with him. And the whole time I did this, I used to always think, how did this little Krishna care for these cows? They're so big. They eat so much, and all of these things. And I have a little mongoose, and I struggle so hard to find its food. I have to find different things. And of course, the mongoose, they eat all kinds of, insects and everything. So then later on, I used to just feed it milk, and later on it grew, and we developed this beautiful, loving relationship with like a four-legged species and a tiny one. We
Are
literally,
mongoose, are they known for being nice?
oh my God, they're the
Really?
most, they're more endearing than any other species that I've known.
Oh.
I
And
can trust
this,
your bias, Prabhu.
huh?
It is a
Totally
childhood friend.
biased. Totally biased. So that's why I become attracted to this energy of love that Krishna embodies. And it's a name, we call him Krishna, but that the person that embodies this love, that cares for trees and plants and the groves, the forest of Vrindavan, the lakes, that he removes the poison from the lakes. It just, to me, I just completely fell in love with someone that has such deep love. That's
Yeah.
personal.
Thank you. So, just for me, actually, I grew up here reading and watching the Mahabharata. Amar Chitra Katha is a staple in India. So, now Krishna, I was more attracted to his teachings. His teachings are primarily found in the books like the Gita, which we are studying, and I could say his activities. They are told in a book called the Bhagavad Purana, or the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the Krishna book that Radha Priti was mentioning that is a summary of the Bhagavad. So now in Indian history, especially the stories from the Bhagavad, Srimad Bhagavatam and other books, they have been immortalized through poetry, through architecture. If you go to places like Veda Prabhu mentioned Vrindavan, there's beautiful places where there is wall paintings, there are arts, there's music, there's drama. And of course, nowadays, as technology advanced, we started having comics. Now we have TV shows, we have movies. So through all these, the activities of Krishna come about. But so I personally liked more the philosopher Krishna. So Krishna, I found he had these multiple aspects. The philosopher Krishna was what I found in the Bhagavad Gita, but it was almost like what's the word to use? The adventurer. The adventurer Krishna, which I found in his activities. Well, okay, it's nice adventures, but I didn't find that particularly interesting. There's another book which discusses activities. So the philosopher Krishna is in the Gita. The adventurer Krishna is in the Bhagavad. And then there is the diplomat, the strategist Krishna. That is described in another book called the Mahabharata. So when I read these, my attraction is primarily to this, the philosopher in the Gita. But then over a period of time, I started reading the philosophy more and more, understanding it. I found something which I could say changed my entire understanding and relationship with the divine. See, the general understanding is that we human beings are here and God exists high up. And in some heaven, he's existing, whoever whatever he is. And from there, it's a very hierarchical kind of relationship with God way up, with the divine way up. That is the understanding that was there. I was educated in India, we call it convent school. It was a Christian missionary school. And so I had these dual conceptions of God, the idea of God as very playful or very philosophical, that I grew up in my home upbringing. And in school, I learned this idea about God as a very powerful and almost intimidating being who could, I'm not saying this in a negative sense, fear of God is not always a bad thing, but it's an intimidating being. Then what I understood in the Bhakti tradition eventually, as I said, that was my breakthrough for me, that there is the concept of Leela. Now, Leela is a difficult word to translate. It can translate as play, it can be pastime, it can be drama. But what it essentially means is that the divine as Krishna, he does not, his joy does not come in displaying his godhood, displaying his greatness, his might, his power. That does not give him much joy. That he has to do functionally, but that's all that there is to it. Okay. But his joy doesn't come much over here. His joy comes in reciprocating love. And for that, the focus is not on the greatness, but the sweetness. So in fact, to reciprocate love, the divine conceals his divinity. That if we always knew that this is the all-powerful, omnipresent, omniscient being. Now, okay, what kind of relationship could we have? If such a very powerful person, the awareness of the might of the divine is constantly in the mind, then that would inhibit the flow of love. So what in Leela is like, this is our world, this is the kingdom of God, the spiritual level of reality, spiritual world may be called. This is the world where we live in, the material world. And now one role of God is to act, of the divine is to act as a judge, as an overseer, and to maintain order in the world. But that is only a small role of the law, of the divine. Here, in this abode, in the spiritual world, there is simply the reciprocation of love. And for reciprocating love, the normal hierarchy would be God will be this big. Like the normal hierarchy would be that the divine is infinitely large and we are puny. Now, what kind of relationship would be possible if we are constantly aware of the might of the divine? So what happens is, instead of this is not the dynamic in the kingdom of the divine, which is the kingdom of love. The divine also takes on, or rather divine manifests eternally as a form, as a person, just like every one of us. So we are spiritual beings, and the Lord also manifests, the divine also manifests as a being, as a person. And there is a reciprocation of love. So there might be the very so the focus is not on the might, the greatness. So rather we mentioned that this is just children's tales. What's the point of hearing those tales? But when you see what is actually going on, that there is this all-powerful being who's concealing the power, so that there can be the reciprocation of love. So in one sense, in this spiritual world, actually, if we use the word God, we can use the word Krishna. It is not Krishna who is supreme. Is Krishna is supreme? Not exactly. It is actually love reigns supreme. And because love reigns supreme, this is the abode of endless an endlessly fulfilling love.
I think one point we can explain a little bit more, because we talk about the material world and the spiritual world in this one. So there's the difference, just a little bit of it. Because in the material world, it's called material world because it's made of matter, earth, water, fire, air, ether. And the spiritual world is just filled with love. Matter has a shelf life, and this love is eternal. And that's one of our ambitions as yogis, how to always remain in that realm of this transcendental spiritual love. Why live in a place of temporariness? The material world means this love is so temporary. We lose our loved ones. And so that's why this process of bhakti is so deeply ingrained into the teachings for those who are seeking that to drown themselves in that spiritual love. And that is what we are all seeking in this world. And so that differentiation, I think, is quite important. Because why should we even think of the spiritual world? Why should we even go there? We can find it all here, right?
Yeah, here things are finite, they're temporary. And while love is possible here also, but the love is limited by the finiteness and the temporariness of everything. So in this kingdom of in the spiritual world, Krishna, in one sense, as a part of Leela, he manifests as a cowherd boy. Now we could say, why a cowherd boy? Well, firstly, Krishna is a cowherd boy, not a cowboy. And why? Because there is a simple charm over there. You see, the vision of the kingdom of God, the big vision of what kingdom of God isn't thought of as a place of great might and majesty. But Vrindavan, it's simple, beautiful nature. There are mountains and there are lakes and there are flowers and there are fruits and there are cows and there are parrots. And there is Krishna with his friends. And in this, Vrindavan is often called as a pastoral paradise. In this pastoral paradise, there is simply the reciprocation of love.
Pastoral means like a pastor?
Not a pastor, it's pasture. That's a good one. It's pasture, not pastor. So pasture is a grazing ground. That's interesting. I not thought of that notion. So it's a paradise which is simply filled with the reciprocation of love. And the whole purpose of Krishna there is that I don't have to prove that I am bigger than anyone else, I am better than anyone else. No, he just wants to reciprocate love. And that same mood is manifested here also. That although this world is temporary, the temporary world offers us, it offers us a pathway to eternal love. And how does that happen? If we, while our existence in this world is temporary, but while we are here, if we, this pathway centers on, we direct our love toward the eternal. So bhakti is the process by which, from wherever we are, whoever we are, whatever we have or don't have materially, that doesn't matter. We all have a heart. Our heart has the capacity to love, not just a capacity, as a longing to love and be loved. So if we just direct that towards the divine, we will rise from the limitedness and the temporariness that characterizes love in this world to the infinite, unending love that awaits us in our personal relationship with the divine.
Beautiful. You know, I have a meditation. Can I share my meditation with you? It's a secret.
Please.
But those of you who are on this call will get to hear the secret. You know how we say Krishna is the, in this pastoral, what is the term that you used?
Pastoral paradise.
Pastoral paradise. And I remember reading in the Bhakti texts, Bhakti wisdom texts, how heart has to be cultivated and nurtured to grow and remove the weeds in the heart to create this pastoral paradise. Why? So we can actually be with the divine in this beautiful, loving environment of nature. So in my meditations every day, I always think of how to take the weeds out of my heart so that I can create this pasturing ground for Krishna with all the cows, and I can join them in this beautiful meditation. This is one of my, and just relish this transcendental, eternal, spiritual love. Be in that space. So this is one of the things that I always meditate on. Pastoral paradise. I didn't hear that term before, but I always meditate how I can create that space within my heart, because it's a space of softness. It's a space of kindness. It's a space of love. And I tell you, everybody in the world, whenever they want a vacation, where do they go? They want to go to the mountains. They want to go to nature, and that's where they find love. It's just inherent in us. So why not cultivate that mood and remove these weeds from our heart and make that space a sacred space for the divine where you can be there with him? So this is my personal meditation that I
Beautiful.
felt like sharing with you guys.
Thank you. So, I think you mentioned in an earlier podcast about how you like gardening. So there are many different metaphors which can actually convey the magic of the process of bhakti. So since we are talking about theme of nature and how Krishna is the divine who delights in nature, and so that natural metaphor for the heart also is beautiful. So we want to water this tree of love, and then the opposite of love is selfishness. Love centers on giving, receiving also, but giving primarily and receiving. But the weeds of selfishness, as they become lesser and lesser, then we'll find that we will appreciate and delight in the love of the divine more and more. So I'll just make one point before we maybe summarize, and you can comment on it if you want. Whether you had mentioned about unconditional love earlier. So now, many times this question comes up that, okay, if the love is unconditional, then why am I not experiencing it right now? And why do I have to do anything to experience love? If it's unconditional, it should not depend on it should not require anything. So the word condition has two different meanings. Condition can mean terms. So there are no terms for the divine's love for us. The divine, we will talk later about this more elaborately. The divine is present in the heart of every one of us. And the divine values and cares and cherishes each one of us. But that condition can also mean state. And in this idea of state, if we consider that, say, there's the sun high up in the sky, and the sun is spreading light everywhere. But if somebody is an underground dungeon, and that person is in that deep, dark dungeon, then no matter how bright the sun may be, there'll only be darkness, no light at all. So similarly, for us, if our heart is turned away from the light of the divine, from the divine, then we cannot experience that love right now. Of course, sometimes we may have some special experiences where we feel some joy, some shelter, some strength, something mystical. It's a sense of wonder. But the idea is that if we just come out of the dungeon, so then the sun is shining brightly and illuminating the entire landscape. So the heart that is misdirected can't perceive that it can't perceive even unconditional love. So that is not because the divine is putting a condition, rather the sun is giving light unconditionally. But the point is that we have to be in the sun. So when the heart becomes redirected, so bhakti, what it does is it redirects the heart. And as our heart will become more and more redirected, we can perceive that love. Any quick comments, Prabhu?
Yeah, so individual heart connecting to the universal heart or the divine heart, that is what bhakti is. It's, in other words, is what you're saying.
Beautiful. Individual heart, the link with the universal heart, the divine heart, the human heart and the divine heart. That's bhakti, perfectly put.
I think there was one point there, how to connect with Krishna, the divine. And we were discussing about the different components of, the self, the abilities, the resources, and our projects. I don't know if you have time for that.
I'm not sure. Maybe we have to want to go there now. It's almost.
Yes, we may not have time. Okay, let us wrap up. Maybe Radha Priti would like to comment something. She's being too silent today.
You guys, I was just so in awe of what you guys were presenting. I was just thinking, one mistake I made when I came into this is, I think it's a tendency when you first come in and you feel this, you experience this love, you learn about this love, and then you just become so open-hearted, like almost too open-hearted in a way that, you maybe become vulnerable to people that aren't there reciprocating that with you, or you may even be too much for other people. So for me, a lesson that I learned is a difference in experiencing this with the divine and then my interactions with other people. And you could be open-hearted and it's beautiful, and especially in these circles, it's definitely safer than maybe some other ones. But at the same time, it's important to kind of understand the difference there, and that we are still functioning in the material world. And while this love does exist and is real, and it's so personal and it's so with the divine, and the other relationships that you have are also beautiful and wonderful and can help bring you there, but need to be taken at their own accord and also selected with great consideration and intention, and practiced accordingly. I think that was like a really valuable lesson that I learned. Or those relationships, because they maybe are in a spiritual circle and they disappoint you, you may end up disappointed with the divine, and that can be kind of the most dangerous thing. So I think it's important to differentiate between the two there, the two realms of which we act and we carry ourselves.
Nice.
That's an important point. I think we'll discuss this in the how do we act in the world. This will discuss in that chapter 12th discussion. What is the one who is trying to love the divine? We use the word devotee. How should we act in the world? We don't want to come off as fanatical or sentimental or overbearing, because that can happen, because we are just experiencing another reality. So let's discuss that in a later session. I'll try to summarize now. So we discussed how the divine love is inside out. As the world sees external trappings, the divine sees only what is in our heart. And then, I mean, we are not judged by what is not in our control. The externals are not in our control, but the internals are in our control. And thus, this relationship can be so stable because it is a relationship based on internals. And we can always be in control of the internals. And then we moved from that point of bhakti being pure love, that it's not based on what we have, but who we are. And then we discuss as Krishna is the embodiment of love. And we discuss it how that one divine is interest is simply pure, unconditional, spiritual, transcendental, eternal love. So then I talked briefly about the concept of Leela, how there is knowing about and knowing, actually knowing the person. So when we know the person, know the divine as a loving and lovable person, what we understand is that the focus is not so much on the greatness, that the divine does not delight in the greatness, display of greatness, but in the reciprocation of sweetness. And thus, the divine subordinates the divinity for reciprocation of love. And that dynamic manifests in the world also, where we have where bhakti is open for every one of us. And that bhakti is universally accessible. Is it conditional? Well, not in terms of there being terms for that love. It's like sun gives light to everyone. But the state is we can't be in a dungeon, we can't have our eyes closed. So if we just open our heart, we just redirect our heart. So if we just open our heart, we'll start experiencing that divine love, and our life will become devotionally enriched. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Beautiful. We'll go back to the main screen so we can see everyone.
Yeah.
Before everyone leaves.
We're late today. We got Veda rolling on his favorite topic. He didn't check us in on the time.
I have to leave now. I have another class. Please, you can continue, and we'll talk later. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go back to the main screen.
Okay, let me see if I can do. I'm going to share my screen.
Do we have a takeaway?
Yes. Oh. Let's see. Can you guys see my screen right now?
Yes, we see your device is ready to go.
Okay, let's see. Moses is going to share today. Moses Prabhu.
We can't see everyone. We just see a screen that says your device is ready to go.
Really? Can you see everyone now?
Oh.
Can you see now?
No.
You can't see?
No. But that's okay. But that's okay. If everyone can see it, that's fine. Can everyone see it? Go ahead, Moses.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for this podcast. You had some really amazing points, everyone. One realization that really touched me was when Radha Priti shared her realizations of how she started to enter deeper into Krishna's Leela and the essence of what they're saying, rather than getting caught up in the details. And Chaitanya Charan kind of expanded that.
Is the screen sharing off, Radha Priti, so we can see everyone?
Yes.
That's why it's not working. Take this. Yeah, there we go. Now we can see everyone.
Sorry.
And I was just saying that Chaitanya Charan kind of confirmed this point that Krishna's joy, or God's joy, it doesn't come from displaying his greatness. His joy is in reciprocating love and his sweetness, kind of displaying his sweetness, kind of, I guess, Krishna, all attractive. I mean, what's more attractive to us, I guess, is his sweetness. And I think that'll help me strengthen and go deeper in my relationship with the divine as I start to read about his pastimes more and more. Krishna book. I'm gonna get started on that. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for your service.
Thank you,
Thank
Moses.
you. We're so grateful to be with all of you. Thank you so much for all of you for joining us. Please share with your friends this beautiful Sangha we're trying to create. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, share it with your friends, your family, anyone you know, anyone that you do not know, anyone that you feel might benefit, anyone that you feel may not benefit, you can still share with them. You never know what'll happen. So thank you all so much. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the same time. Namaste.
Thank you, everyone. Namaste.